Welcome to the Pulse with Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano. Let's get you to the pulse on everything you need to know. And we are here at the beautiful Il Tavolo Di Palmisano, located at 700 Clinton Street in the beautiful city of Hoboken, New Jersey. And we do need to start off with a little bit of somber news. As everybody knows at home, we like to have a lot of fun here. But Il Tavolo Di Palmisano lost an absolutely incredible person on their team, which was their manager, Robert Hoff, suddenly last weekend. Every time we came to film here, Robert was nothing short of fantastic to both our talent and our crew. And we are just so saddened for his loss. And we want to give our deepest sympathies and condolences to the Hoff family. And Robert, we miss you, we love you, and you will never ever be replaced here. But one of the things that Robert would have loved for us to do was to continue reviewing food. And the person to my right, especially at his beloved restaurants, knows all about it. And that is our Places Insider, Megan Ixim of @Miss_Giggles. Megan, so good to see you.
It's so nice to be back. Thank you for having me.
Exactly. We're so happy to have you. And we're outside. Why not? Weather is
Oh
gorgeous.
my God. The weather is, like you said, gorgeous.
I
Absolutely gorgeous.
Exactly. So,
yeah.
and you know, I'm looking at this first dish that you're going to try now.
Okay.
Right? And you when you think summer, you think watermelon.
Absolutely. And
Talk to
I feel
me.
like for me, there is nothing to better start the meal than a beautiful watermelon salad. So what we have here is some very fresh and delicious watermelon, looking very ripe, and then tossed with a little bit of red onion. And it actually has a shaved burrata, which is something a little bit different because I feel like we're used to doing like a runny, pull apart burrata, similar to like mozzarella. And this has a little bit of a sharpness to it, which
And
is
that's a
quite
good question.
nice.
Exactly, it is nice because
Yes.
a burrata is what it sounds like. It's gooey and
Yes.
watery and
Exactly.
creamy, I should say, not watery. But this is shaved. That's so interesting.
Yeah, and it gives it just a little different bite to kind of contrast with the sweetness of the watermelon. And then
Okay.
topped off with, a really, like when you go to an Italian spot, it's like the balsamic is gonna be good.
Right.
And I'm telling you, this balsamic looks good.
Absolutely.
All
So
right,
I'm going to let you
All right,
dig in.
I'm
And folks at
taking a
home,
bite.
I know what you're thinking. You're like, why is Peter B doing the food segments? Whatever happened to Desiree Perez? And she unfortunately couldn't make tonight's filming, but she will be back for future food segments with Megan and Daria and Krista and Jenna and anybody else I'm forgetting. Sorry about that. Dig in.
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Good?
It's just a perfect bite.
Okay. So
Yep.
refreshing, I'm assuming.
Absolutely refreshing. I mean, today is about like 80 degrees actually.
It
So
is hot.
this is the 6 o'clock after work, starting your meal off. Perfect thing to just get that little bit of summer in your life.
Exactly. And this is a new menu because it's watermelon, obviously. And watermelon's not available all year round.
No, sadly not.
Exactly. Unless you're in like the warmer climates. On their summer menu, they said.
Oh,
So why not
okay.
start? Come on. Who did the research before this, Megan? Talk to me. Come on now. All right. Shall we move on? I think you have some clams in front of you,
Oh my
right?
God. So the first thing we're gonna do is, I'm all about the citrus with my seafoods. We're just gonna give this a nice little zhuzh, a little bit of citrus. And these are clams oreganata, which I don't know about you, but like I love stuffed clams. Better than like any raw clam. Maybe
agree.
it's the breadcrumbs. Maybe it's the lemon. Oh my God, it is just absolutely delicious. And that's all you need. Just a little bit of breadcrumbs, a little bit of lemon goes a long way.
So, and now these are stuffed with breadcrumbs. I'll let you
Yes.
indulge.
Yes.
But of course, there are some clams that can, have stuffed with crab meat and things like that. But,
Ooh.
really, Il Tavolo Di Palmisano does it the traditional oreganata type of way.
Italian way.
You know I was going to do this tonight. Megan knew. She asked me before the segment. She's like, Italian? Is it Mediterranean? I understand it's Italian, but is it Mediterranean as well? And I said, no, just Italian.
He was very serious about it. Very serious. He was like, it is Hoboken Italian. We are eating Hoboken Italian. So, yes,
Exactly.
obviously Peter is very passionate about this one
Very.
subject.
Exactly.
All right. Okay, so I'm ready to go. I'm ready to take a bite. They look.
All right, I'm excited. By the way, I saw
good.
you kind of just scooped that right out. That's how you know it's
Scoop it out.
fresh.
You know, like I use my hands. I know, like that's not really something you're supposed to do at the dinner table,
we're
but like
Italian.
you gotta get the scoop in. You know, you gotta use some things. You need your hands, and like this with like the sauce. You just want a little bit of everything on your fork.
Absolutely love it. Yeah.
Okay, all
Well,
right,
dig in. And by the way, that sauce looks phenomenal.
Oh my god! All right, I'm going for more.
All right.
All right, all right.
Oh yeah. My
That's
God,
how you know.
they aren't skimpy on the clams there. Oh my goodness.
There's a huge clam.
That was a huge clam. Holy moly.
Oh my goodness. All right.
So please.
A big bite. All right,
that
I'm
was a
done.
big bite. Oh, you're good.
I'm done.
Talk to me.
Yes. Okay. That was. You know what? You know when you have a good clam when it tastes like the ocean. And that was exactly what hit me. Despite having all of that flavor, you still get that really nice fresh ocean taste. Like 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Reganata.
Clams are gonna.
Absolutely.
And the watermelon salad, we didn't rate that 10 out of 10 as well?
I'm gonna give it a 9.1
Woo!
out of 10.
Okay, that's still a very, very good score. And you know, this was on me because I ordered this food a little too early and it has been sitting here for a little while. So,
It's still
but Megan
really
was late.
good. Yeah, like, I'm the one eating it. I'm
Exactly.
very excited about
All
it.
right, we have one final
All right.
dish for this week. Talk to me about what we have here.
Okay, so this is a special for this week, which, you know, I'm all about the specials. I
Mm-hmm.
love something that you know that the heart and soul went into it, that it was a chef's idea, that they're excited. It's seasonal, it's ready to go. So this is a prosciutto and fontina ravioli. It has a really nice white butter sauce. And I feel like it reminds me of the Italian flag. I mean, look at that. Just a little bit of red, a little bit of green, a little bit of white.
You want me to start singing the Italian national anthem right on camera?
Really? Do you know it?
No, let's not sing. Fratelli Italia. And that's it. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay, all right, yeah. See, I am from New Jersey, born and bred, and everyone always thinks I'm Italian. I have zero Italian.
Exactly.
But
But
boy,
Peter's
do I-
rubbing her Italian all off on her in this segment,
Yes,
folks.
yes. But boy, do I love Italian
There you
food.
go. I'll let you dig
All
in.
right,
That
all
does
right.
look like an absolutely beautiful dish with all of the
Yes.
different colors in there.
Yes,
As you
I
said,
mean-
the Italian colors.
Look at these beautiful
Oh my
tomatoes. I
God,
mean,
they
those
are
look
sun-dried
so
tomatoes. They
fresh.
look phenomenal.
Oh my God, I want to take a little bit of that.
Please. Oh, I'm
God.
actually. I might actually have to eat this segment. She knows that. You know, our
Wait,
foodies
are
know
we
that
gonna
I
have a
really don't.
first?
I'm getting
Yeah.
two.
No. I feel like Peter is a little like, I don't know if I can handle eating.
I know,
You know, I
because
get
then
too
I get
excited about
it's
the
in my
food.
teeth, and you know I start spitting. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh,
And nobody
uh-huh.
wants to see that.
Whereas-
Come on, Megan.
Some of us wear lipstick in the end.
Ah!
But, you know,
Well,
you're
some
getting
of
used
us
to the food segment.
are way more talented than others.
All right, so you
Dig
can
in.
see the
Yeah.
prosciutto, you can see the fontina. I mean, that looks
Hold on, let me get that
really,
paper out of your
really
way there.
good. All right.
Oh my God, she dropped her fork and knife. She has her hands up. She's surrendering to the raviolis.
Oh my God. I mean, you could tell that's homemade.
Mmm.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
It almost tastes like your Nona spent the whole day rolling out the pasta dough and was like, you know, Megan's coming home tonight out of college. She's
There
back.
you go. There
You
you
know,
go. The team at
even I'm
Il Tavolo Di
32.
Palmisano.
Yes, and like they're like, you need a home cooked meal that's going to make you feel warm and fuzzy, and that's that dish.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
What's the rating?
Oh, I don't know. I think a 9.5 out of 10.
Woo!
Yeah.
Listen, when I was in school and I was getting hundreds and 95s and 91s, must have been doing something right?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Megan Ixim of Miss Giggles, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's always a delight. And plus, who doesn't want to go anywhere that they're fed and fed well?
Amen to that. And we hope to see you on a future show.
I hope so too.
Exactly. All right, folks, get over to Il Tavolo Di Palmisano, located at 700 Clinton Street in Hoboken, New Jersey, and we will be right back. Peter Biancamano, your hostess with the mostest of the Pulse with Peter B. Folks, don't forget to go on our Facebook and our Instagram pages by searching The Pulse with Peter B. and like and follow us on each of those platforms. We're constantly updating those pages with previews of each week's segments and cool stories. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our email address at thepulsewithpeterb@gmail.com.
Cheryl Fallick here, guest host for this segment of The Pulse, and I'm here with my good friend, Mike Evers. And Mike Evers and I were in court today. Mike was pro se, and we had a very good first step with regard to an action that Mike brought to improve our zoning criteria at the zoning board in Hoboken. Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened today?
Sure, Cheryl, I'll be happy to. Now, fair disclosure, this was a lawsuit brought against the building across the street from mine, so there was a little bit of personal interest in there. But I can honestly say that the real issues that are motivating me are the fact that it's sort of an effort to get the zoning board to go back to being the zoning board of adjustment rather than the zoning board of log rolling for developers, which unfortunately is what it is more and more becoming. And as a result, we're seeing more and more of the rent-controlled housing that provides housing for moderate-income people in the city being destroyed at the same time that the architectural heritage of the city is being destroyed, because row house after row house is being torn down and replaced by four-story luxury condos, usually duplex luxury condos. And if we don't stop it one way or another, the whole character of Hoboken is going to change in a terrible, terrible way. But it was a good first step today.
It was a good first step. And Mike and I actually sort of came together on this. I care on both ends. As many people know, I'm the spokesperson, the de facto spokesperson for the Hoboken Fair Housing Association. So I've been very concerned with seeing our rent-controlled properties being torn down. But I'm also concerned about the character of the city, what it looks like walking down the street in Hoboken and not recognizing my community anymore. And that's part of kind of what my reason for going to court and sort of sitting in the audience and quietly cheering Mike on today. He did a great job. Why don't you talk about a little, what the eventual result in the ruling was?
Well, the judge has remanded the decision back to the zoning board. In other words, he basically said that the resolution that they approved was unacceptable. It did not meet many of the criteria for a legally binding resolution, which isn't the same thing as reversing the decision, but it is doing what I really hoped it would do, which is to require the zoning board to actually apply the law when they make these approvals. Right now, they're sort of, in my opinion at least, making it up. They have their own rules that don't exactly conform with either the municipal land use law that governs these things, the Hoboken zoning ordinances, or for that matter, case law, including case law at the Supreme Court, the New Jersey Supreme Court level. So if all this lawsuit accomplishes is to get the zoning board back to playing by the rules books it's supposed to be playing by, I think it would be terrific.
I think it would be terrific too. And maybe it'll be protective for our community in ways. I sometimes feel like a lot of the rulings at the zoning board and even the planning board are actually, let's just approve this so that we won't get sued. There seems to be some sort of concern and fear about that. And I think that we have to get past that, because protecting the community relies essentially on that. And if we get sued, we get sued. If we're in the right, we'll win. That's basically how I feel about it.
The purpose of the zoning board is to protect the well-being of the city of Hoboken for the benefit of the people of the city of Hoboken, not to avoid getting sued. The other feature that goes on there, it makes me think of a ruling Judge Maurice Gallipoli made a number of years ago in a Hoboken zoning board case, in which he noticed that all the mistakes that the zoning board was making always seemed to break in favor of the developer and never broke in favor of the members of the public. So the more that the zoning board, gets away from that, and I think a lot of this will help them, because I think most of the people on the zoning board are good people, but like everybody in the world, they don't really want to be unpleasant or make people angry. And
I would say that's definitely part of the problem.
Yeah.
But with that said, we'll be right back.
Welcome to Hudson River Care and Counseling. Hello, I'm Dr. Pam Pater-Ennis, the CEO and founder of Hudson River Care and Counseling, with over 30 years of clinical social work experience in therapy. We are a progressive counseling and coaching practice with a diverse team that brings a holistic approach to clients. We offer support both in person and through digital platforms such as telehealth. Consider us a safe haven that you can trust with care for your mental health needs. Visit our website to set up a consultation today.
Welcome back. And I want to continue discussing this with Mike. I mean, in particular, based on what happened today in the courtroom, what do you think are the sort of next steps that the city and perhaps the city council can take? Specifically, the thing that I'm left with is the idea that our zoning ordinance is basically saying the floodplain is too high right now based on FEMA guidelines or something
Yes,
like that.
I think the basic issues, winning in court is nice, but what really is going to provide a long-term solution to this problem is action by the city council to make some slight changes to the zoning ordinances. The key issue here is that the ability, the ease with which developers can tear down the old row houses and replace them with these four-story luxury condominium things depends to a large degree on things like the allowable height of these buildings. If that's lowered, then it's harder and harder to get that fourth floor, which eliminates the economic incentive for doing that. You can't really blame developers for wanting to make money, but you change the rules on which they can make money, and that will improve things. So I think this is an upcoming election, and I think I would really, as a private citizen, like to hear the positions of the city council members on reducing the allowable height in some of the zoning districts so that when they ask for that additional floor, it's what's called a type D variance, which is very hard to get. To change the base flood elevations without going into the weeds, all things that will just make it harder to get that fourth floor in there, because that's what's causing these rent-controlled buildings to be destroyed. And since many of them are 19th century row houses, it's also destroying one of the really distinct architectural features of Hoboken.
Of the city. Plus, some of these developers who get these variances approved, they're actually getting them approved on buildings that tenants are living in right now.
Yes,
And that
yes.
creates a situation where both parties, the developer and the tenants, can be in very uncomfortable situations.
Mhm.
And, yes, they could do a negotiation, but we're still losing the property
Mhm.
and something that may be considered more affordable, even though it's not technically affordable housing.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between the $2,000 rent and the $4,000 or $5,000 rent that a
Yeah.
luxury dwelling may have.
I mean, it depends. If we want to live in Short Hills on the Hudson, no offense to people in Short Hills, I think that the people of the city of Hoboken should make that decision collectively. And I bet that most people want to live in Hoboken. That's why we moved here, because it was diverse, because you could live in a town where people from all walks of life live together, okay, rather than the homogeneity of many of the really wealthy suburbs. Now, Hoboken's becoming wealthier, that's just market forces. It's proximity to Manhattan, nothing wrong with it. But it'd be nice if we can find a way to do that without squeezing everybody out and in the process ruining what makes Hoboken so special and
And
wonderful.
protecting the characters, squeezing people out. And like you said, Hoboken is a place where people of all types live in close proximity to each other at the mile square. And these 3-story and 4-story row houses that's part of the reason for this diversity that we're always talking about. In this case, particularly economic diversity. So I would definitely like to see some changes to the zoning ordinance that do highlight the fact that it's not just the character of the community that we want to protect, but it is also that economic diversity.
Yes. Another issue is simply that for the council to alter the zoning resolutions to include the preservation of existing rent-controlled housing stock as one of the purposes of the zoning ordinance would be a tremendous help, because that would make it much harder for developers, again, who I'm not saying are bad people, to survive legal challenges in court if they try to go that way.
And that sounds like a great question to ask everybody who's running, particularly
Absolutely.
our challengers that we may not know that much about. They don't have a history of votes, but I definitely plan on asking all of them on the record, what are your thoughts about perhaps including this into the zoning ordinance?
And if I could, I bet there's some skeptics out there who are saying, yeah, that's not going to work. Years ago, about 14 years ago, I discovered that the Hoboken Affordable Housing Ordinance had, to quote the planner on the zoning board at the time, never been implemented. All right, which means we lost at least 1,000 affordable units that way. Now, it was a hard struggle. It's taken years, but there are 400 units either built, affordable units built or being built in Hoboken now, and more on the way. So to say that, oh, it's not possible to alter the zoning laws to preserve rent-controlled housing, preserve our 19th century architectural heritage, it takes a lot of steps, and it's a long journey, but it's easily,
But we can
it's
definitely
not
get
easily
there.
done, but it's done if we're determined and try to do it.
Yes. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for
My
coming
pleasure.
today, Mike. It was
My
great
pleasure.
sitting down with you. It was great watching you in court, and we'll be right back.
Peter Biancamano back with you. Don't forget to watch us on cable access every Sunday and Monday at 9 a.m. Optimum Channel 18, Files Channel 46, and Comcast Channel 190. Also on Sunday mornings at 9:30 a.m., you can watch our show on our YouTube channel, and you can also binge watch all of our old shows. Who doesn't want to keep watching The Pulse with Peter B? We'll see you there. Welcome back to The Pulse with Peter B. Peter Biancamano back in the host chair, and a person to my right needs absolutely no introduction. It is our pro wrestling insider, Mr. Rob Tonnesen. Rob, great to see you again.
It is a pleasure to be back. How are you, sir?
I am doing fantastic. Now, Rob, the last time you were on, you spoke about AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view.
Yes.
And when the segment was over, you're like, oh my God, we did not cover the biggest news in professional wrestling today, which, of course, is the sale of the largest professional wrestling company in the world, the WWE, to Endeavor. It is a merger with UFC. What was your initial reaction to it?
Does my face give it away?
You look so excited.
Okay, so this
Spit it out, come on.
No, I'm trying to phrase it. Your sale to WWE, and I've been on the show millions of times before talking about Vince and how as long as Vince McMahon is breathing, he runs WWE.
Correct.
And then I was on the show talking about him getting pushed out, and I said he's not really out. The sale proves he was not really out. He sold to Endeavor by basically forcing his way back into the company and said the only way that this company will continue is if he's in charge, and then in charge to sell. He bought the company for $1 million and sold it for $9 billion. So good for Vincent Price McMahon.
But that's Price?
Have you seen his mustache?
Oh, okay. I was going to say, when did he change his middle name? But, look, he built the company up. He deserves all the royalties that comes with it. I know you're a wrestling fan in a pure standpoint, and you think that Vince is the problem behind creative. However, you can't fault the guy for building up a company and selling it for
not
a lot more money than he paid for it.
No, I don't fault him. What I fault him for is the fact that he could have had Stephanie do this. Mm-hmm. He could have had Paul Triple H Levesque do it. He could have had Nick Khan do it. But the fact that he had to come back and say, I have the majority of the shareholders, I have this, and basically organize a coup in ways that could only be described as just masterful. Just how he showed up and said, I'm doing all this to sell the company.
Right.
The last time I was on talking about the sale, there was rumors that it was going to Saudi Arabia.
That's right.
So the fact that it's not going to Saudi Arabia is kind of a little bit easier to swallow as a WWE fan.
Right.
But on a negative side, a lot of the talent is going to be okay. Right. The people on the camera side of WWE is going to be okay. Where this sale is going to hurt is in Stamford, Connecticut, at Titan Tower, because now that you're merging with UFC, and I don't want to badmouth anybody in Titan Tower, but UFC is I think would be the bigger of the corporate world. So when Endeavor buys WWE, you don't need as much in Stamford. So I could see a lot of the Stamford offices being shuttered, and that's where a lot of the layoffs are going to hurt WWE. At the end of the day, it's the stock prices, and Vince wanted a $9 billion sale to Endeavor so he could cash out. Good for him. Good for him. The sale is going to work. The sale worked for him, but the sale worked for him and him alone.
And we're going to talk about that. We do have to take a quick commercial break, but we do want to talk about Vince's role, because you and I have joked before on this show that Vince is not going anywhere until he probably dies.
No.
I mean,
No.
and, you know, we wonder if that's in the contract or not. I also want to talk about, at the other side of the commercial break, Triple H.
Absolutely.
And I want to talk about what his role is and what his wife, of course, Vince's daughter, Stephanie McMahon, is. So don't go anywhere. And we're going to go to a quick commercial break and talk more about the WWE sale to Endeavor Sports as they merge with UFC. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Pulse with Peter B. I gave you all of these previews before the commercial break about what we were going to discuss. Of course, we're still here with our pro wrestling insider, Mr. Rob Tonnesen. Rob, did you miss me during the commercial?
I mean, I went to go have some delicious French fries here. So.
All right. Well, why not? Exactly. So I brought up a lot before the commercial break. I spoke about Vince McMahon. What is his new role in this company, and will he be there until he wants to be there?
Okay. There was a new corporate brain trust that came out when the merger was announced. Dana White's on it, Vince is on it, Nick Khan is on it, and the gentleman who runs Endeavor, whose name is escaping me right now, is on the board.
We'll put a graphic up on your screen.
Yes, and
give
Vince,
more work to Stephanie, our production assistant.
Vince is basically the sole guy that is in charge of creative virtually with WWE. Now, I'll kind of dovetail off that. Creative as far as Endeavor is concerned, whatever that means. As far as what Dave Meltzer and as far as what the dirt sheet reporters have been saying about about wrestling, is that Triple H is still running day-to-day creative. Now, that could change on a whim, because there have been segments of Raw and SmackDown that have changed because Vince would be watching at home and would call in and say, I want this to change. Famously, the Raw after WrestleMania, where Seth Rollins came to the ring, they cut to commercial. There's a picture of the producer telling him, you're going to do this, and walk off screen. His promo was completely changed. So wow. Those are things that are happening in a Vince McMahon WWE. Under a Triple H, Stephanie McMahon WWE, I felt creative was a lot tighter, and I felt that the production of the wrestlers was a lot crisper. Look at Backlash with Bad Bunny. I've been up here touting how great the celebrity interactions have been. Bad Bunny's match was a Triple H.
That pop he received coming out in his home, I guess, territory.
His home island.
His home island, yeah, I couldn't do the word.
Like, literally, go on YouTube, and if you could find Bad Bunny's entrance from Backlash, like, I never knew who Bad Bunny was until he showed up in a wrestling ring, and now I want him there all the time.
So, Triple H.
Yes.
What's going to happen with him? As a purist wrestling fan, as I called you in the first part of the segment, you know, you thought that Triple H did an excellent job at running the creative.
Yes.
This is a little different because now there's a new sheriff in town. His father-in-law, Vince McMahon, didn't think that he was that great because Vince thinks that he's the expert. So, in a snap of the whim, Triple H can actually be let go, correct?
Basically. Yeah, with Vince is basically just running WWE. At the end of the day, he can try to save people's jobs, but at the end of the day, as far as I saw on Endeavor, and from what I've been reading, it's Endeavor decides who gets to stay and who gets to go.
What about Stephanie McMahon?
Same goes.
Wow.
Same goes. But Stephanie has resigned from the company as Vince started coming back in. So I think Stephanie is playing more mom at this during these days. which is good for Stephanie, but she always can come back in.
All right. Well, so if you had a prediction before we end the show here, when do you think Vince McMahon will finally depart from the product?
When Vince McMahon sheds his mortal coil. No, there is in Titan Tower, there is a legitimate, spoilers with Succession, like Succession has been doing with what they've been doing this season, is very similar to what they have planned for when Vince goes.
Succession, best show on TV.
Second best to the Pulse with Peter B.
Thank you, Rob. And on that note, that is Rob Tonnesen, our Pro Wrestling Insider. Thanks, buddy. We'll see you for in a future show.
Hey, whenever you want me to host the show, let me know. I'll kick you out.
As you can see, I'm trying to take a back seat to everybody else. So
Pleasure.
I think, that might be on the cards for the future.
Thank you very much for having me, sir.
All right, appreciate you. All right, folks, join us next week for The Pulse on everything you need to know. I'm Peter Biancamano. I hope you have a great week, everybody.